WebMonkeys team. Our project is the Automating Research Proposals project. This is Nate Odermatt, our team leader. Our design lead is Jesse Martin. And Brian Mitchell is our QA lead. And I'm David Greninger, the technical writing lead. Our client is Dr. Samuel Odom, who's a professor in the Department of Finance. He's also a member of the Faculty Research and Development Committee, which forms a major part of the users for our project. I'll say a little bit about that in a minute. Our faculty advisor is Professor Ed Gellenbeck from the Computer Science Department here. Our presentation this evening will consist of an introduction in which I'll review very quickly the background of the project, a discussion of its architecture, a discussion of its implementation. We'll have a demonstration of what we've achieved. We'll have a discussion of QA and testing, and then a brief conclusion, and then we'll have some questions. So the problem we set out to tackle was that the Faculty Research and Development Committee administers a number of different kinds of grants that are available to members of the University Committee. The application for these grants is at the moment completely paper-based and generates vast quantities of paper that have to be filed and kept track of. Now, of course, as computer science people, our first reaction to that was, I know, a database. But in reality, we analyzed the problem in detail and developed a conceptual model for the solution we proposed. Jesse will talk about that a bit in a moment. That model involved a database, in fact, which is at the center of our solution, a web interface that functions as the user interface, and the invisible partner, third partner in this, is the code module, an extensive code module that deals with extraction and insertion of information into the database, from which it builds the user interface pages. It also manages user accounts and handles access levels for different levels, different types of users. This model was drawn from the requirements of the system, which we identified, that it be able to create accounts, that it give different levels of access to different classes of users, including committee members, the committee chair, and proposal applicants. It needed to store all information that was submitted from the various classes of users, and it needed to allow for proposals to be resolved by being decided on. To develop the system, we followed an agile development model. We divided the project up into 4 iterations. The first iteration was all about getting infrastructure in place, the database, account handling, and such. The second iteration focused on proposal submission processes and functionality. The third was the committee review process. And the fourth iteration, which we've just completed, was implementing the administrator functions and tying up loose ends. So Jesse will give the architecture of this solution in greater detail.
All right, so with the later iterations, those being iteration 3 and 4, one of the most major changes to the project architecture itself was the addition of tables, specifically a reviews table, which worked with committee members. Committee members' comments and ratings were stored in this table. Evaluation of proposals was also handled by this table. The other table that was inserted was the acceptance table. This table held accepted or declined states based on the committee chair accepting or denying a proposal. Committee members or committee chairs' comments were also held in this table. And those were the major addition of the tables in this iteration. So for the database schema, you can see that there were 2 new tables inserted, the reviews table and the ratings, or the acceptance tables. Also, we did some renaming of different fields within the tables to make it a little bit more consistent and able to follow easily. We reduced the complexity of the tables somewhat based on feedback from our last presentation. So that's our database schema. For the components in our design, it still consists of viewable pages, which are rendered HTML and CSS that the user sees, and that's the user interface. There's also validation and repopulation functions, helper functions. There are other functions that check validation of the user to see if they have access to view that page, etc. Finally, there's the data access layer, and that is just a connection to the database itself. So in our implementation of the MVC, we have a controller unit, and that holds our business logic layer, which is essentially the functions that work directly with the UI, data coming in and out from the UI. So that would be part of that would be the validation and repopulation functions. Those update the view, which is HTML and CSS. There's also another level of our controller, and that's the abstract data layer, which consists of PHP functions that will insert things into the database. So in evaluating our model view controller, you can see we were able to tell that it was suitable to this project. The modifications that we made increased the modularity of it. Some of the benefits that we had were our development process was sped up as we knew what components to look inside when we were debugging something, or when we were building something. Faster debugging was another thing that was an advantage of this system. As it's more modular, it's easier to find the location of an actual bug within the system. And in addition, in the future, the system would be easier to expand if we wanted to expand it or add functionality to it. So the business logic layer was part of the increased modularity, and the database access layer also assisted in decoupling the view from the model itself. Everything had to go through the controller to access the database in turn. So that sums up the software architecture changes for the third and fourth iterations. Now Nate will give us a demo.
Before we get to the demo, too quickly, we'll talk about our implementation that we used for this during this third and fourth iteration. So with the third iteration, we focused on the committee member themselves. So I believe in the second iteration, or the last presentation, we were able to show you that the committee can actually see a list of the proposals that have been submitted. Some other functionality that we added to this is that they could actually evaluate these proposals through a form. And then they could submit that form, and it'd be put into the database, and then they can go back and view the form if they'd like to. They also can view, once they submit a form, they can view the comments that have been given by all the other committee members based on that proposal. The fourth iteration, like we discussed, we focused on the committee chair and some administration functionality. The chair sees kind of the same view that the committee members themselves see, except they don't get to view or review a proposal since they're really busy. That's why they have the committee there to help them with that. They can also give a decision on the proposal itself, and then the email will be sent to the submitter based on that proposal, the decision of it. And then they can view the comments that have also been given by all the other committee members. With this also, we focused a little bit just on the submitter themselves. Like I mentioned, they'll receive an email based on the decision from the chair. They can go into their home page and view the decision and see the comments that have been given as well. With the environment we used, again, is the same as this first and second iteration. There's a computer that we're using as a server up in 204 West. It does have all of our stuff on it. And then, of course, also the CW server. We had to match everything with that as well. The stats for this project is we have ported all of our files to the server. It is up and running on the server right now. And we feel that we've completed 100% of this iteration, or of the project itself. We have about 5,000 lines of PHP code that we've written, around 1,300 lines of JavaScript to do our validation. We have about 63 PHP files, which totals out to about 12 to 15 web pages, and we have about 232 commits to the repository after this iteration. So for our demonstration, go up and pull up the web page here. We have some pages are already populated here itself. So you can kind of see, we've logged in as a committee member, so you can see here that they see a list of all the proposals by date. They see the description of the proposal, or they see the type of the proposal. They can view the uploaded file if they want to. They can download it. They can also view the cover sheet to that proposal, which gives all the details of the proposal itself. And they can then go in and select a review form to review the proposal. All this is validated with JavaScript, so if they happen to miss a field, it will populate that they need to enter in the correct information. As far as the scoring there, you can see that it is between a certain range. Each field takes a certain score. We've already filled out a proposal itself, so you can see that all the fields are in there right now. Once they submit their evaluation, it'll take them to a confirmation page, which says that the form has been uploaded to the database. They can go back to the home page, and they can actually view that evaluation form if they want to. If they want to go back and kind of see what they've written. An extra column that we've added also to the committee thing, or page that I've mentioned, is they can view the comments from all the other committee members once that they have submitted an evaluation. That way they can't kind of go off their ranking off another committee member. So they get to see the total ranking of the actual proposal itself, and then they can see the list of committee members that have commented on that evaluation. So we can go ahead and log out, and we'll log in as a committee chair member. And of course we created the chair ourselves, so that way we can do our testing. So again, you can see that they have the same table, kind of as the committee members themselves, but missing a few additional fields since they don't review any of the proposals themselves. There's a column there that they can click on to evaluate or give the actual final decision of the proposal itself, since that's kind of their responsibility. So it auto-populates with the name of the person that submitted the proposal, the department, and the title of the proposal. And they can either click approve or decline. They can write any comments that pertains to that proposal that they would like to send to the submitter. Again, once they hit the submit button, it kind of brings up a confirmation page that the email has been sent to the submitter. And they can also view the comments and the ranking as well before they want to make a decision based off or from all the other committee members. We'll go ahead and sign in real quick as a submitter so you can kind of see what that page looks like. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the administration features that we've added. So the committee member can go, or committee chair can go in and add committee members. So with this box here, they can enter in all the email addresses of the committee, and then once they hit the submit button, it'll send them an email giving them an access code, so that way they can register as a committee member. They can also go in and add a new chair if they decide to retire or leave. And once that happens, the new chair can go in and actually delete the old chair from the database, so that way they don't have access to it. Again, validation is there as well. So we can, now we'll log out and sign in as a submitter. And again, like I mentioned, the submitter does get an email about the decision, and it does give the comments that were written in that comments text field. So as you can see, the two columns we added for this is the comments and the decision. If there's no comments or no decision, of course, nothing gets populated in those text fields. They can view the decision that was given. They can also, which again gives them the actual approval or denial, and again includes those comments that the committee chair has written. They again can view the comments. With this page, though, we took out the committee members' names, so that way if it's been declined and some bad comments are there, they don't go find the committee member and try to hurt them physically. So that does conclude our demonstration of the certain fourth iteration, and I'll turn the time over to Brian for our quality assurance and testing.
I will take a few moments now and talk about the bug reports that our team did, as well as the testing that we have completed. The WebMonkeys team did unit testing using simple test, as well as black box testing for validation functions in PHP and JavaScript, as well as system testing on the web server and a limited amount of stress testing. So first we go to the bug report. Our team has documented 45 bugs in the system that we have gladly all fixed, and most of them were just minor bugs like misspelling in the function names and such, and some bigger ones that would make the page completely disappear. We would always go in with 2 people and do paired programming because 4 I see a bit more than 2. Then moving on to the unit testing, what we did, we had a simple test. It was a test class that would run through all the functions and then display on Firefox which functions passed and which ones failed. That way we knew which ones we had to work on and go in and fix again. Then black box testing, basically what we did, we have PHP validation functions as well as JavaScript. So we would go in each team member and just go through and make sure that all these functions and validations were working correctly. Like for example, like we saw in the demo, when you would put in a number that's higher than the given amount, it would throw an error. We had to make sure that of course it would give an error and also not let them pass the document on to the server. So with system testing, what we did, since we have access to the server, glad to have access to the server, every time after we finished some functionality, we would go ahead and throw it onto the web server and make sure it actually works on the CW server. And then stress testing, since there's only 4 members in our team, we actually went ahead and all logged in at the same time with different accounts, like 2 would log in as a submitter, 1 as a chair, and 1 as a committee member to make sure that the system won't crash if multiple people are accessing the database at the same time. And also the most important test that we of course had to do was acceptance testing. We planned ahead and planned 4 acceptance tests because we have 4 iterations. And as of Monday, we completed all 4 acceptance tests, and our client is very satisfied with the product that we have given him. In the next slide, we see a small excerpt from the acceptance testing. Basically what we would do, we give him a small scenario that he would fill out, and then either give us a pass or a fail, and also give us some comment or feedback on what we could improve or what he wants to have changed. Also for quality assurance, we went ahead and used the W3C web validator to validate our HTML code to XHTML 1.0 strict, and also validate our CSS to CSS 2.0, and our JavaScript with JLint. And now that I have finished this portion, I will hand it back to Nate to conclude us.
All right, just a quick recap. With the overall project, we feel that we've completed 100% of that, and it is up and running, like I mentioned, on the CW server. Some of the reflection that we have looking back on the project is we were very excited to start it, and we got going pretty quickly, but then we realized once we got to the 3rd iteration kind of how complicated the committee page was going to get, and that kind of threw us off a little bit, but we were able to group ourselves together and finish it. Some of the pride that we feel proud about this project is we did work well together. We did spend a lot of time pair programming so that way we could catch any bugs that was written, or just did simple little, make sure the coding standards was correct. And then we are very happy with our final product that we have finished. So we'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions.
Where are the dates consistent?
That was formatting. On the very last one, where it gives the day, the month, and the year, that is the actual format. We didn't go in and delete any of the old fields in the database, so it was just, we were kind of playing with the formatting to kind of see what we liked.
At first, actually, we just accepted any string that the user would put in for a date, so those were stored in the database. Later, we went through and validated each individual part of it and saved it as a formatted date string. So that's what the later ones are.
What happens if the chair deletes himself without adding a new chair?
We actually made sure that he cannot do that, that he can't delete himself. We have a function that checks that if the chair who tries to delete himself, it double checks that if it's the same person, they cannot delete themselves.
So it checks the username just to make
checks
sure
the username,
when
make
they
sure.
enter it in that
They have to be deleted by their successor. They can't delete themselves.
So what if you have a data corruption error and you've lost both records? Like what sort of recourse is there if the chair can't get in?
I think you'd have to actually go into the database itself. We use PHP-MyAdmin, so we'd have to have login access to that account and then go in and manually create a new committee chair member.
Okay, so who's going to do that after you leave? Well, so
we thought about it. We haven't really given it as probably someone in IT is going to have to do it. We're going to have an operation or an installation manual that we'll give to them that they will know what to do in case something like that happens.
So yeah, what's your handoff plan? Okay.
We need to pin that down. The original plan was that the committee chair would have chair access, and also Dr. Quirk, I believe is his name, who is a higher level administrator, would likely have committee chair access as well, so that there would be a backup, but that does need to be pinned down.
Okay.
Did you guys do your testing with all of you in the same record at the same time?
With the stress testing,
Right.
if we all went on and submitted a proposal at the same time.
Or updated the proposal at the same time, or deleted it while somebody else was editing it.
Yeah, we didn't actually go in and check to make sure, see what happens when that happens.
Well, we did all log in once and we all uploaded
Yes.
a proposal at the same time when we were trying to fill up the database, and it didn't crash then.
So
Okay.
there is actually no simultaneous modification of proposals. It's only appending new information into the database. So you're not able to delete a proposal from the system. It's always going to be in there.
Okay, did you test to see what happens when two people are trying to open the same record at the same time for editing?
Yes,
And what
we
happens?
didn't have any issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.